Izuku and the children looked up at the house in awe. Wow, Izuku said. The house was big enough to make mansions seem like tiny apartments in comparison. To compare, if you excluded the fake cities, the house was bigger than UA. Pretty cool, huh? Nami said with a smug look on her face. Seeing as you'll be taking in an unknown amount of kids all with special needs and such, we decided it was go big or go home. All the kids stood in stunned silence for a while, all of them speechless that this massive building was now to be their home. And of course, the first one to break the silence was Kiba, who suddenly started laughing. Ahahaha. Yes, this seems like a fine place for someone as great as I to reside. Good work, Mistress of Sloth. Kiba complimented. Mistress of Sloth, really? I'm not that lazy. Nami stopped and thought about it for a moment. Actually, nah, that title is appropriate. You'd make a good Twitch streamer or YouTuber or something. What are those? Kiba asked. I'll tell you later, Izuku told her. For now, let's go inside and see where everything is. Yeah. I want to see my room. Kay told them excitedly. Her snakes hissing with happiness. Well, then it's time for the house tour. Get ready, kids. This is gonna take a while. Nami said. The entrance. Upon walking in, they were already met with a plethora of paths, with 4 different paths on the first floor, a staircase leading to the second floor which had even more pathways, and the third floor even more. Okay. I don't really have a plan here, but I do have this map. Nami said, taking out her phone which had a map of the house on it. Oh, by the way, Izuku, take this. Nami handed Izuku a new phone. It's better than your old phone and has a few choice apps downloaded on it. One of which is the map for this house. Nami explained. Okay. Izuku wasn't sure about needing a map to traverse his own house. He's sure he'll get used to it, but it's gonna be confusing for a while. Now, how about we start with some of the indoor functionality rooms? Nami decided. The classroom. Many of the rooms on the second level were large empty rooms. Apparently, they wanted Izuku to decide what to do with some of the rooms, so they were left empty. The first room they came across that actually had something in it, looked like a large classroom, an elementary school classroom in particular. There were educational posters all across the room, one of those plastic skeletons near the front. There were bookshelves that were lined with textbooks, computers, and a desk with a globe on it. And of course, there were desks all around the room. Ah, finally a room with something in it. As you can guess, this is one of the classrooms. There are 2 of them and they're basically identical. If you or a tutor want to teach the kids, this would be the best place to do it. Are there any animal books? Kay asked Nami. Yeah, there should be a zoology book around or 2 around here somewhere. Good luck finding it though, because I'm not helping. Nami said. Well, I'm glad I'll be able to give them a somewhat normal school experience. Although I'm still not sure about a tutor though. Izuku knew he wasn't quite knowledgeable enough in every subject to act as their sole educator. At least not if he wanted them to get a good education. But trusting his kids in the hands of someone else was something he was just unused to. Well, if you want, we can provide you with a list of tutors that have been screened by the government. Nami offered. Izuku thought about that. On one hand, that would be a good way to find tutors. On the other hand, if the government was that good at screening things, then how did Nami get employed? Why do I have the feeling you're thinking something rude? Nami glared at him. Library. That's a lot of books, Fu said with a tad bit of awe in his voice. This room was larger than most of the others, and inside was a standard-sized library, with books littering the walls and shelves. Hundreds, maybe thousands of books. Behold! The nerd room. Nami said. Izuku gave her a "really?" look, while the children ignored her and explored the library. Kei immediately ran into the S section. S is for snakes. So there should be snake books in here. Come, Fu. Help me find books on my kind. Kiba dragged Fu into the V section. Sanson, namely, looked at book covers, making many arms to look at them all at once. Kyoko didn't stray too far away from Izuku, just looking around the closest section to them, which happened to be I. There's nothing inappropriate here, is there? Izuku asked Nami. PFT. Of course not. We screened all of them before they got anywhere near here. Nami said nonchalantly. And they were scanned by a department other than the OPCCC, right? Izuku asked. Izuku. I'm starting to think you don't trust us. Nami sounded offended. Which is dash. Izuku, what does intercourse mean? Kyoko asked, pulling out a book that was definitely not appropriate. A perfectly valid opinion, given what you've seen of us so far. Nami finished her sentence as Izuku ran to grab the book from Kyoko. Quirk training room. And this is the Quirk training room. Nami said, gesturing to the large room. The room was completely barren and looked like it was made out of some kind of metal. There's nothing in here? Izuku pointed out the obvious. Well duh. You're supposed to request items for this room. Nami told him. Then what exactly makes it different from the other empty rooms? Kiba asked. Well, you see, this room is made out of extremely tough metals, imported from I Island, Nami explained. I Island? Izuku's eyes went wide in shock. What's I Island? Kei asked. The other children looked just as confused. I Island is an artificial island, where some of the smartest people on the planet are gathered, to create some of the highest tech things the world has ever seen. Izuku explained while geeking out. That's right. This room is specially constructed to be tough as he, CK. Nami explained. So you can go ham with your training, without worrying about breaking the entire house. And also check this out. Blast doors. As Nami said that, blast doors suddenly shut behind them. You can seal this room entirely from the rest of the house. So if a kid is going to explode or something, just put them in here and lock the doors. Nami explained. So that means you're going to give me explosive children. Izuku was pretty sure something like that might happen, but this was confirmation. You know it, kid. Nami gave him a shit-eating grin. Thunk. Everyone looked to the left and saw that Kiba had punched the wall, but didn't leave a mark. Much to her surprise. I see. This is truly impressive metal. Of course, I didn't punch it at full power, but still, it is impressive. Kiba lied, swearing in her head to break this room and prove her might one day. Fu sighed. Knowing what Kiba was thinking, and all the headaches it would cause. Kitchen and dining hall. Back on the first floor, the first room they stumbled upon was the kitchen and dining hall. The dining hall looked like the typical cafeteria, with long tables and benches for people to sit and eat on, and trash cans all over for people to throw stuff away. The kitchen was much bigger than the one they had before, with several refrigerators, and a separate room that acted as a freezer. It's really cold in here, Kei said as she walked in the freezer. No pool. Sanson refused to go into the room, staying a good few feet away from it. Can Sanson freeze in the cold? Well, I guess that would make sense. She's made entirely out of liquid. Izuku made a mental note of this. It is a bit chilly in here. Kiba looked mostly unaffected. What about you, Fu? Fu looked down at his arms. Machem, Yeah, no, I still can't feel anything. There should be enough food in here for all of you to last a while. We even took Zombie Boy into account. Nami said. If you need to buy food, I already put a number you can call on your phone. They even sell special needs foods, like blood. Good. I have a feeling Fu and Kiba aren't going to be the only ones with strange eating habits. Izuku said. Oh, you have no idea. Mamie held in a laugh. Indoor sports room. This was a large room, with a window stitching across the furthest wall, which showed the outside. The room itself had a large section of fake grass, and outside of that, there was a small ping pong table and some other tables. There were also some basketball hoops and soccer nets off to the side. And welcome to the indoor sports room. For all the introverts who hate the cruel rays of the sun but still want to play sports for some reason, this room is for you. Mamie explained. Finally. Take that, you wretched yellow skyball. Kiba shouted. Izuku looked outside and saw the gardens. It wasn't anything too complex, a bunch of flowers arranged in pretty-looking patterns. Most of it was empty, seemingly they wanted them to plant things themselves. What's this? Fu said as he grabbed a ping-pong paddle. It's ping-pong. It's tennis for cowards. Mamie explained. It's a perfectly fun sport for everyone. Izuku rushed in so Mamie couldn't color their opinion too much. Yeah, I got it wrong. Badminton is tennis for cowards. Mamie corrected herself. There is no such thing as tennis for cowards. Izuku argued. Living room. And so this is basically the living room, Mamie said. The room wasn't particularly large in comparison to the others. In the center of the room was a very large couch, with two smaller, but still somewhat large couches next to it. In front of the couch was a big table, with several controllers for several different gaming consoles. And of course, there was an entertainment center, with a TV on top and basically all the new generation consoles and a few games. So we hooked you up with all the new consoles, but if you want the older ones you're on your own, Mamie said as the kids went to inspect the consoles and games. You know, you've given us a lot of nice things. A lot of nice, expensive things. Izuku noticed. Why so generous? Well, how could we not be? These kids have had it hard and we just want them to enjoy their futures. Mamie said with her hammy acting. And you're sure it has nothing to do with the government fearing they might become villains? Izuku asked. Maybe a little, Mamie replied. Izuku sighed. He hated that the government viewed these kids as potential threats more than they did as children. But at least he could use that to get the best things for his kids. At the end of the day, that's all he could do. Outside. Their backyard turned out to be almost as ridiculously huge as the house itself. There was a large pool with a diving board, a greenhouse, an omni-purpose court, a garden, and a few more things. And wrapping around the entire thing was a huge track. Whoa! Kate couldn't decide where to go first. Sanson immediately made her way to the pool and jumped in, moving freely through the water like a fish. Is it safe for all the chemicals inside her to be in the water? Izuku wondered. I'll have to have that tested. This makes me wish to go outside, at night of course. I'm not giving you another chance to mar my perfect skin, you blasted fireball. Kiba shouted at the sun while still making sure to hide in her cloak. Is that a greenhouse? Fu asked. Yup. You can grow plants and stuff if you're boring. Mamie said, getting glared at by Izuku in response. Well, good thing I'm boring. I want to try it. Fu said. Can I try it? Eri asked. Of course you can, Eri. And there is nothing wrong with that. Izuku glared at Mamie. Yeah, now let's go take a look at those bedrooms, shall we? Mamie said. Rooms. The bedrooms were located on floors 3 and 4. with a nursery also being located on floor 3, telling Izuku he was eventually going to have to take care of some significantly younger children as well. Kyoku's, Eri's, and Kei's rooms were all basically the same, with the only difference being that Kei's room was already filled with extra visors. Otherwise, it was all the same. They were surprisingly a lot smaller than most of the other rooms in the building, but that's probably because there were so many of them. All of them had a basic, but comfy bed, a TV, and a desk. And of course a bathroom. Fu's and Kiba's rooms were built to be significantly stronger, so that way they didn't break them. And Sanson's room was completely lined with a material that was immune to her acid. Meaning she could be in this room without the chemical, and not melt it. Izuku's room was very different from the others. For one, the 5th floor, the smallest floor by far, was entirely dedicated to 2 rooms. Izuku's office and Izuku's room. Izuku's office was rather standard. It had a few cabinets for files, a wooden desk with a computer, and a window overlooking the backyard. And his bedroom was larger than all the children's bedrooms, but was still pretty standard in terms of what was in it. Except for the bed, which was huge. Bigger than any bed Izuku had ever seen. "Why is the bed so big?" Izuku asked, while the children jumped on the bed. "Well, we figured that some of the kids would want to sleep with you, so we decided to make it dogpile accessible," Mamie explained. "Oh. Yay?" Izuku was happy for the kids, but he had feelings that might get painful at some point. "Well, that's it for the tour," Mamie said. "Wait, we toured the entire house?" Izuku was sure there was more to be looked at. "Ha ha ha. No." Mamie laughed. "I don't have time for that. I'm gonna go drinking with my buddies in an hour, so I have to go home and change." Izuku facepalmed internally. He should have expected that. "Well, I guess this is our new home," Izuku thought. "It's going to take a while, but..." Izuku looked at the smiling, laughing children jumping on his bed, all of them having a blast. "I can get used to it." Izuku smiled as well.